Hello students, I welcome you again to this online learning platform. We are in history. Right now we are on Unit 5. Unit 5, we are looking at causes and impact of neocolonialism. So our lesson of today, we are going to look at introduction to neocolonialism. So I want you to be attentive and pick something at the end of the lesson. Lesson of today, we are going to look at introduction on neocolonialism. Neocolonialism and its causes. So before we go to our lesson of today, the previous lesson on Unit 4, we have looked at the rise and spread of African nationalism. So we saw a number of reasons why Africans rose up to gain their political independence. We saw the impact of the Second World War. We saw poverty in Africa. We saw the rise of independent African churches. We talked about the rise of new superpowers, that is USA and USSR. We talked about the Labour Party in Britain that put pressure on the British government to declare independence to the African colonies. So we went ahead and looked at the impact of rise of African nationalism or impact of African nationalism. We saw what came after rise of different national organs like the OAU, African National Union, which was formed to enable African countries gain their political independence, among others. So today, we are going to look at the post-independence situation, that is neocolonialism. So the colonial masters, after granting independence to the African colonies, they did not stop on that. They had to fight and find ways how they can still repenetrate into Africa by introducing their ideologies. So within this way, how the former colonial masters were introducing the ideologies, we term it as neo-colonialism. So when we go to today's lesson, introduction on neo-colonialism, we need to get to know the meaning of neo-colonialism. So dear learners, at the end of the lesson, I want you to be able to explain or to define the term neo-colonialism. I want you to be able to explain the causes of neo-colonialism. So when we go to neo-colonialism, colonialism. Here we look at the post-independence situation in Africa. So according to what we have here, we say neocolonialism can be defined as the process by which colonial countries continue to exploit their newly independent countries or colonies through indirect domination. So we look at the situation where the colonial countries still exploit their former colonies through indirect ways. This one we term it as neocolonialism. So this has been so much rampant in Africa, whereby it's like it's like the business being done by the former colonial masters. Another way how we can define neocolonialism, we can say it can be described as a disguised form and efficient propagation of social, economic, and political activity by the former colonial rulers, aiming at reinforcing their presence in their former colonies. So the former colonial masters, they do try to still show that they are still existing in the former colonies in different ways, funding those countries in the form of foreign aid, different projects, intervening in African politics, intervening in military situations, training armies. They are also behind the recent coup d'etats we normally have in Africa, because still these African soldiers, they do such coup d'etats after receiving influence from the former colonial masters. So when we go to causes of neo-colonialism, we have seen the meaning of neo-colonialism in two ways. Now I want to look at the causes of neo-colonialism. Why is it so much rampant in Africa? Some of you are like, not understanding very well what neo-colonialism. In simple words, neo-colonialism, you can say, the situation where the former colonial masters still have influence in the social, economic, and the political spheres of life of African countries or societies. In anything Africans are doing, they have influence over former colonial masters, be it in language, that is social, economic activities, things concerning business and other activities, political, we look at the political setup of Africa. So the former colonial masters are still showing or taking control of being part of African politics. So cause number one, unequal exchange. Unequal exchange, under these European countries had colonized most of the continent by the 19th century, instituting a system of economic exploitation in which African raw materials, particularly cash crops and minerals, were expropriated. We talk about expropriated. This is when a given country, exploits a given resource on its own benefit at the expense of that country where the resource is being got from. So the country where the raw material is got from doesn't benefit at all. So when we talk about unequal exchange, here we see colonial masters, the former colonial masters, exploiting African resources, taking them for their industrial benefit. Then, after the finished goods from raw materials are being brought back to Africa, and then the prices are being fixed by the very colonial masters or the very European powers, whereby Africans, for them, they have no say. So that is cause number one. Cause number two, we talk about foreign aid. Foreign aid, how the former colonial masters still show that African countries have the inability, to run their governments, whereby in the case of Africans, reading different budgets, how the country is going to run throughout the given year or an economic year. So for them, they think Africans cannot sustain different activities without getting foreign aid. So the issue of foreign aid is also an example of neo-colonialism. Then the point number three, we can say Balkanization. When we talk about Balkanization, this word we can derive it from the Ottoman Empire, that is Turkey, Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Empire, which is Turkey, that had been so much big to the extent that Turkey controlled the Maghreb region of North Africa, countries like Morocco, countries like Tunisia, countries like Libya, countries like Algeria, countries like Egypt, Western Sahara were under the control of Turkey. Turkey went ahead and controlled big seas big seas like the Mediterranean Sea, like the Baltic Sea, the Black Sea were under the control of Turkey. Turkey controlled big islands like Crete, like Malta, and then Turkey went ahead and controlled the Balkan. This is where we derive our word from. Balkan region. Here we look at countries that are lying within the Mediterranean Peninsula, countries like Serbia, countries like Bosnia, countries like Yugoslavia, countries like Czechoslovakia, countries like Greece were under the control of Turkey. That's why Turkey had to adopt the name the Ottoman Empire. So now when we talk about Balkanization, that word is being copied from the Balkanization of Turkey, whereby Turkey was ruling over this big region which comprised of different countries of Europe and some countries of the Arab world. So the European powers, they tried to show Balkanization, whereby they as if seem that some of the African countries are overseas territories of their countries. So this is also another cause of neocolonialism. Then when we talk about another point, we can say mediation of the ruling class, So under this point here, some of the former colonial powers, they try to influence African leaders how to implement some policies, which policies can to some extent hinder or become an obstacle to the natives of Africa. So that is also another way how neocolonialism is being caused in Africa. Another point we can say, intellectual inability. Intellectual inability is a situation whereby the colonial masters, for them, they think that a black man doesn't reason, a black man is not innovative, a black man can't do anything that can lead to economic growth of the African continent. So whenever they see any brilliant African man or any brilliant African, they seem to let those Africans go for scholarships from their home countries. Then from there, they divert their ideologies by, indoctrination. We talk about indoctrination. This is when someone is being, doctored with new ideas, letting this person forget the good ideas the person had in his head. So this brings us to the end of some of the causes of neocolonialism. Let me hope you picked something from neocolonialism, what it means, whereby we have seen the former colonial masters, they try to show influence in their colonies, social, political, and economic. So whenever we end our lesson, we end it with a short exercise. So I want you guys to try for me these numbers. Number 1, define the term neocolonialism. Number 2, explain the causes of neocolonialism. So thank you so much for watching. We catch up next time. Bye-bye.